So as you may know, I just got this one finished and put it up for sale. I don't know, maybe, I guess yesterday. I finally got the seat cover on. The seat cover is not too bad looking. I got a seat cover on the other one, but I like that yellow. That's pretty nice. So I just put the for sale sign on it yesterday, and it occurred to me that it's kind of hard to start. The choke flapper, the hole was too big. It occurred to me the hole must be too big, so I came out, stuck my finger over the hole on the choke flapper, just fired right up. So I changed that out this morning. It was still a little dark out. I had to use a headlamp. And then I noticed that the governor linkage was sticking a little bit to the air filter housing, and I bent that a little bit. Runs great. I mean, absolutely runs great. It ran great before. It was just a couple little bugs or gremlins that I wanted to address, and got those taken care of. No sooner did I get that finished, some guy says, "I'll be over tomorrow to pick it up." Didn't ask any questions. He said if it's in working order. It didn't even say good working order. If it's in working order, which it is in working order, it will start, it will cut grass, it'll move, it'll stop. So that's working order. I'm really happy with it. The Craftsman's taking longer to sell, but that's expected. It's a Craftsman. Nobody cares about them. I mean, they sell. When people need them, they will sell. But I knew that John Deere would go quick. And the way I listed it was kind of nice. Vintage with the original yellow deck. Because there was two series of these STX 38s. One was in 89, 91. Let's see, it was 89 to 93, I think. And then they started up production again in 96 to like 99 or 2000 or something. Those had the black deck, but they weren't even as fancy as these. The STX 38 was the first John Deere that was, I guess, produced for economical purposes. First John Deere lawnmower. I really like it, and I'm going to miss it. I've been looking at other ones thinking maybe I should buy another one, but I don't know. That was a lot of work. So it kind of brings me to my point today. Recently I was told that they were surprised that this lawnmower repair hobby business thing that I got was successful, or was becoming successful, or did as well as it did, whatever they said. Now these people have been following me since the pop-up camper burned down. So that was 7 years ago, 6 years ago. It was a long time ago. So I find that kind of shocking that someone would think that they would be surprised by any success that we have. If we really look back at our time on YouTube specifically, because that's all we can look back on. I can look back further, but you can't. I've had a lot of success. Everything we've done has been successful. So I don't understand this, oh, it ain't gonna work mindset. I don't get it. I mean, if we look at the pop-up camper, I remember we told the landlord that we were gonna, this was our last month here or whatever, and he come over to the house to check out what needed to be repaired. And he says, "Where are you guys heading?" I said, "Well, we're gonna travel the country." And that thing, the pop-up camper, said, "Yes, sir, that's where we're going. You'll never survive a first winter." Well, we did. We made it all the way through winter. Now, granted, someone burned it down, but we made it. And the attitude was, no, you're not going to make it. And when we got on YouTube, I mean, the majority of the people said we weren't going to make it. It can't be done. Now you get on YouTube, there's a lot of people who travel the country in a pop-up camper. People are just afraid or can't think outside the box. I don't know what it is. So when they burned it down, we built a truck camper. I was really proud of that truck camper. And with a little 4-cylinder truck, so we used Luan is what it's called, Luan. And it's kind of like, it's really thin plywood. I mean, thin, it's just, but the reason we had to go with Luan or something was because we needed light. It's a 4-cylinder pickup truck. We could not have a lot of weight on it. because we had to have things like a refrigerator, a generator, propane tanks, gasoline, water. So we couldn't have a heavy camper. So when it was all said and done, the camper weighed 200 pounds. Well, nobody thought that was going to work. Nobody. Everybody thought we wouldn't make it. When one guy said, first time you hit a bird, it's going to go right through that thing. Well, we hit a bird leaving the Grand Canyon, and I immediately pulled over to look, and it was just a blood splatter on the camper. So doubts, I don't know how to convince people that they can do things. Then I got to thinking, what if a bird had gone through that thing? I mean, we went, what, a little over a year before a bird did hit it. And what would have been the big deal? As long as it wasn't raining when it happened, it wouldn't have been a big deal. We could have gotten some silicone and patched it up. Now, I will admit that the paint we used on it it was roofing sealant is what it was. It started to peel, I guess about a year after we put it on, 9 months, something like that. Started to peel off. So when we made it back down to Florida, we put Coroplast over it. And the Coroplast was a light material that was going to, be waterproof. And again, everybody said that ain't going to last, that ain't going to last. Well, no, it wasn't going to last. It lasted 5 years, I think is what it lasted. We actually took it off the truck and put it on the ground here, used it as a shed. Well, when we stayed in it for a while we were building a tiny house. And then we used it as a shed. We used it for the batteries for our solar panels. We used it to house chickens. And so, and even though people said that Coroplast wasn't going to last, it was still a waterproof method. It was still working. It was just flaking off. I mean, you couldn't rub up against it. So, but the thing is what was the big deal? It was pretty cheap. I think it was like $8 a sheet. Needed 10 sheets, $80. Whoop-de-doo. And it took 2 or 3 days to put it on. That's not even working full time. So everybody really hated the idea of the whole camper idea. Everything we did, you can't do. Not going to work. So then I said we wanted to live off grid. We got tired of traveling. And that's what's funny is the one thing that we didn't want to do when we realized, okay, this is not what we want. Oh, that's such an easy life. Why are you quitting? That's just terrible. So, the thing that we didn't want to do was supposed to be real easy. But everything we did want to do, you can't do that. I guess people just don't know how to think outside the box. As long as, I don't know, I don't get it. So we moved here, and immediately there was 2 things that was just big and controversial. So we have an acre and a half, and we said we were going to burn firewood. Well, you don't have enough firewood. There's no way you can do it. That's impossible. You're going to need an acre and a half every year. Well, what are you talking about? We use 1 cord a year. 1 cord, that's 3 pickup truck loads. 1 cord, that's 3 trees. In a tiny house in an efficient wood stove. Again, can't think outside the box. My dad used to use 16 cords of wood in his house. What are you talking about? I can't do that. They just knew we wouldn't have enough firewood. Well, I have not touched a healthy tree on this property. I say healthy because we have cut a few unhealthy trees here. A few. Now remember, before we got the tiny house built and we started using that firewood, we did use 8 cords of wood on the little truck camper outdoor heat exchanger that we put in. That was from October to January. That was very inefficient. I knew it was going to be inefficient, but I still didn't touch any healthy trees. Then we started going to Facebook Marketplace, there's this app called Free Stuff, and free firewood is everywhere. People are just giving it away. You just go get it. So we got 15 cords of firewood that first and second summer, I guess. And we got firewood the last 15 years. You can't do that. You can't live off grid. Now you don't have enough property. You're going to have 1 billion acres to live off grid. And so the reason people say you can't do something is because they think traditionally. They don't think, well, if I built a tiny house, I wouldn't need 15 acres or 100 acres of property. So I could afford an acre and a half. You can buy that for $4,500. And they don't think that, you know, oh, I can build a tiny house. No, got to have a mansion. And so the reason you can't do it is because you can't afford to do what you think you have to do. I don't know where people get this idea. You have to do things the way everybody else does it. And then when you do it, they're like, holy cow, you did it. That's amazing. But the big controversy was the well. We were going to use a submersible well pump. And somebody said, my husband is a well driller, a well guy, and he says you can't use those for more than a few seconds at a time. You have to shut them off or they're going to burn up. Our idea was we were going to turn it on, fill the IBC tank, 75 gallons, 225 gallons, I forget what it is. We're going to fill it up and then use the water out of the IBC tank. Well, you can't do that. You'll burn up the pump. Well, I absolutely knew for a fact that was not true. I can't believe I left that there. That was an experiment. I need to get that down. I was on a submarine. I know how pumps work. As long as you keep water going through it, it will stay cool. As a matter of fact, the longer you run it, the better off you are. The way well guys do it, they turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, trying to fill that pressurized tank. And that does shorten the life because you're harming the motor, not the pump. The pump's fine. It's the motor surging and it's heating up. It's terrible. Don't do that. But that's the way wells operate. You got to do it the way well guys do it. Well, no, you don't. So then we started building the tiny house, and of course that you absolutely can't do by yourself. You're going to need codes, and you need permits, and you're going to need this and that and this and that. Well, I knew I didn't because I read the code book. And then the code guy came out after I put the floor down to tell me that even what I read in the code book, I didn't have to worry about because it's on a trailer frame. It's basically a trailer. You can't, if it has wheels and a tongue, then it's not classified as a house. It's classified as a RV or something. If I wanted to put it on the road, I would have to get a license, not permitted. So people just can't seem to stretch their imagination and investigate and research, figure out how to do things. And of course, building it by myself, that you just can't do. And all through the build, well, I could have had that done in a weekend. I'd have got a 6-pack or a 12-pack or a whatever pack of beer. I had a bunch of guys come over. We'd had that done over the weekend. Well, I don't do that. I did it myself, all by myself. The only thing I needed help, well, I didn't need help. That's what's so frustrating, is I asked Carolyn to help me lift the north wall. What it was is that evening after I got the north wall built, we came up and I thought, hey, I could just tack that in real quick. I said, you want to help me hold that up? And she would help me lift it up. And then after I did, I was like, oh, I should have just did that myself. And then we had to assemble that plastic shower. So I don't know if they want me to fail or if they just can't wrap their head around it. So of course now we started this lawnmower business, and that's all I heard was you can't do it. You don't have the tools, you don't have the things you need. Well, we did it, and we've been quite successful and quite busy. And, I'm still looking at this as a part-time job. I don't want to have a full-time job. That's not the dream. The dream was just to make a little bit of money. And since YouTube is not doing well right now. Let's do something that would make us a little money. So I did the lawnmower business. I went to Walmart and bought myself a little set of tools, and I built onto it a little bit. I've gotten a few things extra, but I probably haven't spent $500 on tools, and I made a lot more than $500 off that $500. I mean, that was a huge investment. Well, you got to have a shop. You got to have a shop. Okay, why? We've done this for an entire season now, and I haven't had to have a shop. Now, next spring, we probably will get some sort of tarp or tent or something that I can work under, because, you know, springtime, it will rain a lot. So I want to make sure that I can work on rain days. Also, the spot we were working on, the patio is what we call it. It fills up with water, the concrete does. It takes a while to drain off, and you try to sweep it off, but it fills back up. And I don't want to work on that in the wet, and you know, step in the water, especially if you got to get underneath it. And the thing is people gave us stuff. We got that lift, the lifts to the front of the lawnmower, for free. That was brand new. I mean, it was 3 years old, but it just sat in a box. It rusted, but it's brand new. That's $300 given to us. Just, I didn't have to work for it, nothing. Just give it to us. So that was really a godsend. That was great. And then I bought this welder. Oh, you can't weld. You don't know how to weld. Well, that's why you got to learn things. I don't know. It seems like the first thing people think of is I can't. It's a shame, because this country was really built on I can. And you got to think about it. The Gateway Arch. I mean, everybody said the Gateway Arch. Couldn't do it. Yet it's been standing my entire life, plus a few years. I think I don't know, 67, 69. I was born in 71. So my entire life plus some, for something that couldn't work. People are very negative, and that's why they can't get to follow their dreams. They just can't see a solution. And the thing is YouTube is full of solutions, but they're so busy saying what you can't do, they don't even pay attention to what you can do. So if you click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was working on something. So if I can inspire you that you can do it. So live your dreams. Thanks for watching.